evening, my fellow Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys Dave and Jack, bringing you all the transfer news, keeping you up to date with players that have been linked with a transfer to Tottenham, and sadly, players that have been linked with a move out of Tottenham. And there's been a rumour mill that started off slow today, but it's developing a little bit of pace as the day goes on. But look, before we get into it, there is one thing I want to say before we actually get into the news. But Jacko, how are you, my man?
Doing very well, Dave. Looking forward to doing what I had done kind of with Mia. Shout out to Mia from Spurs Between the Lines. Now we get to have you back and go through some of the news. It's nice because not I think all of these are totally concrete yet, but they are worth reporting on. We have to stay updated, and we're going to give our thoughts on it, have some back and forth, some discussions based off them, and hopefully you guys can enjoy the show for the next hour or so. So really do appreciate you guys. Smash the like button if you can for us. And it's good to have the big Dave back. Get his opinions. We've been missing them.
No, look, it's good to be back. You can't keep a big mouth like mine closed for too long, Jacko. So, it's great to be back. But look, we'll welcome some people in, see who's with us this evening. But also, don't be afraid to get your questions in. We'll start what we can and answer what we can at the end once we get through all the transfer news and stuff like that. So feel free to get your questions in. Good evening, Edward. Good to see you, my man. Says evening, 40 million is a lot. I don't know about this deal anymore. We'll definitely be discussing the VANDERSON news. Paul Connor says, good evening, gents. Big up to the panel. Great to have you back, Dave. And big up, Jack, for the solo content, keeping it going. Top man. Absolutely spot on. Honestly, the channel would be dead at times without Jacko, so fair play on that one, Paul Connor, given the recognition where it's due. The Norwegian Viking, great to see you, my man. Tony and Eze, yes, please. Just quickly, I'm a bit like you. Ireland, of course, not participating in the Euros, so it's a bit of lonely time between us right now. Maybe we can become really good friends over this time, console each other, the Norwegian Viking. Just quickly, I see a lot made of this Ivan Toney news. Now, it was put out by an absolute useless source, and I did see that Michael Bridges of Sky Sports was very quick to go underneath one of the comments and say there's no truth to the rumour whatsoever, so do not be fooled by any of the Ivan Toney news right now, and that's according to Michael Bridges of Sky Sports. Eze, on the other hand, is one that has died down, but I'd absolutely love this guy at Tottenham Hotspur. But we'll get into it a little bit later on when we discuss maybe the Højbjerg and what his agent had to say, maybe why the Eze deal is maybe on ice a little bit. Big up, Martin Knightsbridge. Good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. He says, welcome back, Dave. Big up, Al, as well. Reckless Madness. Happy Monday to you as well. Hopefully you're keeping well. We have Amuval Randomize says, has son in the name, bring him in. Can't go too wrong. Sean Maddox says, if we sell Emo and Spence for 20 to 25, then 40 isn't the worst. Maybe you can renegotiate a little. Absolutely spot on. Although, I seem to be playing a bit hardball over the Jed Spence deal. Iceman says, welcome back, Dave. Good to see you again. Hello, everyone in the chat, and well done, Jack, for the solo effort. Big up, Iceman. Good to see you. How's your son getting on out in the USA? Please keep us updated. We also have Adrian Schrock as well. Good to see you. Good evening, Dave, Jack. Great to see you, my man. And also we have Swim Master. Welcome back, Dave. Did I hear Tony news earlier today? Completely false, completely fake. Michael Bridges was very quick on Twitter to, disassociate that rumor very, very quickly. And the source of it was absolutely a nonsense source. Just goes to show, I think me and Jack could probably set up a website, call ourselves Transfer News Specialists or something like that and put out links and it'll be clicked around and stuff like that. We also have Gwen Evans. Good evening, guys. Great show. Good evening, Gwen. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. We also have Shem Tam. Hey, Dave and Jack. Hope you're both well today. Please, Eze, not Tony. Well, we definitely won't be getting in both. Although we could do it both, we definitely won't be getting both in. And then Gary Paul Speed, good to see you, my man. How are you keeping? A long time no see. Says Radu, ideal replacement for Romero, then reinvest the 100 million into the squad. Look, a lot of people really rated Radu Dragoson's performance today. A lot of praise has come his way across a lot of TV networks that have been covering the Euros have pulled him after today's game for a lot of praise. And he looked really, really good. Look, we have that third option. Now we just need that ideal fourth option that can play on the left side, that is a lot more comfortable on the left side. And maybe that's what let Radu down a little bit, that when he did get his opportunities, they did present himself more on the left side. But big up, Gary Paul Speed. How are you keeping? Please let me know in the chat. And then we also have Spurs fan John. Evening, boys. Great to see you, my man. Hopefully you are keeping well, sir. But look, Jacko, we'll hand it over to you. We'll get going and let's start going through some of these rumors today.
Yeah, and we'll start first with VANDERSON. Oops, I didn't mean to take all of us out of focus here. Faces for radio. Vanderson is going to cost 40 million euros, according to Fabrizio Romano. Tottenham are showing interest in the AS Monaco right back. Vanderson is one of the options, only if Emerson Royale leaves the club, though. It's not an easy one, as Monaco want more than the 40 million euro fee, but Spurs do appreciate him. Emerson is expected to leave Spurs, with AC Milan being his priority. Dave, thoughts on Vanderson? I gave out the scouting report, kind of pointed out that he's very similar to a Pedro Porro. He's young, 22 years of age. 40 million euros is a big fee, though, so they would have to really like him, Spurs, if they were to go after a guy for this much.
Look, I like the look of Vanderson, Jack. You know, like you said, he looks a lot like Pedro Porro in terms of he's able to cross a ball, pass a ball, over a good distance. He's got a bit of a passing range on him, and he's a bit of a goal threat as well. He's not bad when presented with an opportunity in front of goal. But like the report said, this deal all hinges on Emerson leaving for AC Milan, and how quickly will that deal be done. The 40 million price tag, though, from me, Jack, will be the sticking point on this deal. And the reason why, Vanderson is contracted until 2028. He only recently signed a year's extension over this season. So he has 3 years remaining on his contract. So Monaco are in no rush to sell. And there is a lot of interest in Vanderson, not only from Tottenham. So Monaco are in the driving seat when it comes to the negotiation. So for the 40 million price tag, I think it will be a sticking point for Tottenham, who we know will only pay the value that they deem that he is worth. And will they pull the trigger, like Shawnee Maddox maybe alluded to, until they get maybe the 25 to 30 million they're hoping to get for someone like Emerson, and maybe the money from Jed Spence on top, which means they'll only end up having to pay really 2.5 million out of their own pocket, really, if you add them, maybe them two together, maybe 5 million to make this deal happen. But I would hazard a guess, Daniel Levy loves negotiations. He'll probably try and make it for the value that he sells Emerson and Jed Spence for combined, without actually having to dip into his own pocket. So it'll be interesting to see whether Spurs actually meet that 40 million valuation. But there is a number of factors that you have to take into account when outlaying this sort of fee on a player as well, Jack, that they believe in. And what I want to ask you, is he good enough to come in and compete with Pedro Porro for that right back spot?
Hard to say because I've only seen so much of him. I was able to watch occasionally him in the European leagues, but sadly in the USA, it's a bit harder for me to find the time, but also even to find kind of the TV rights to be able to watch the league. So usually my scout reporting or some of my football analysis is nowhere near as good as I think when it comes to the league. I don't feel like I have the biggest sample size when looking at these players. And I'm surprised that they're asking for such a big fee. It could be explained by what you brought up. They brought him over from Gremio. He's very talented, young. He's only been there so long. He's on a big, long contract. He's been playing pretty well, like as much as some people might not think he's been worth the 40 million euros, taking the context of a guy that has only just moved to a top 5 European league. He's been putting in some pretty good seasons and some pretty good performances. Is that worth Spurs putting up a huge fee for it? Which I think it is a big fee, 40 million euros for a guy that essentially will be competing with probably one of the best right backs in the league, in the Premier League, in Pedro Porro, especially going forward. It'd take a lot for Vanderson to win over that starting position, and he would be giving up a starting position at AS Monaco as well, right? So you have to wonder, what's his drive? What's his motivation? Does he feel like he's ready for that big step up to the Premier League? I don't know enough about him to be able to answer some of those questions, but I do feel like they are worth kind of asking rhetorically, as I am right now. Dave, I think he's good. I think he's good going forward. He has that passing range that Pedro Porro does. From what I could tell, he actually has a really lovely switch of play on him, which you and I were complaining about multiple times with lots of our players, where they would have a pretty easy switch of play wide open for them, but they were never confident in themselves to go for that longer pass, to go for that switch of play. And Vanderson is very confident in his passing range. He looks comfortable stepping into midfield. He likes to take it past his man and then likes to play an audacious pass afterwards. I was more concerned really just by his defensive numbers, because he looks aggressive. He has a lot of really good defensive numbers in that he gets involved. He's making tackles. He's making interceptions. It just, there was some stats on FBref when it comes to the 1v1 areas where he was not very good, it looked like. In fact, he was kind of one of the worst in the Liga of all fullbacks in general.
In terms of defending one-on-one or going forward one-on-one?
That he gets dribbled past lots of times.
Okay.
So he has the most tackles and interceptions of almost any fullback in the league, but then he also has some of the most times where he's dribbled past by any fullback in the league. So how do you judge that, right? Does that just mean he's just a chaotic fullback? Does that mean he's always in action? He's always being asked to do something defensively? Hard to really know and answer the questions to that, because you can see a lot of things you can get excited about with him defensively. Then you can also see some things to be worried about. What I would argue, though, is going forward, at least when we are looking for a right back in possession that can be better than Emerson in possession, I think this guy is definitely going to be better than Emerson in possession, and has some goals too. I saw some pretty interesting goals of his where he had some pretty nice finishes. So he just seems similar to Poro, a similar mold, good going forward, good passing range, creative player, technically gifted, technician type of guy, but very different to Emerson, where he's not going to be a defensive, reliable player as much as Emerson was. So it's a strange one for me, Dave. And the question I'd ask you then is, what do we do here? Do we go for someone who's similar to Emerson, but better in some of the areas that Emerson lacked, like, in possession going forward, but has that defensive solidity like Emerson does? Or do we go for someone like VANDERSON here, who's more similar to Poro, less similar to Emerson? What do you go for?
Look, for me, I think technically it has to be the first thing we look for in every player right now. And that seems to be something we've looked for in a lot of our signings for quite some time. Are they technically efficient? Can they handle the ball under pressure? Look at Vicario, Van de Ven, Romero, Adoji, Pedro Porro. All these guys across the back line can all handle the ball under pressure. And I think that's the very first thing, especially under Ange Postecoglou, we'll be looking for, because we're not a team that's going to be sitting back, waiting to counter the opposition. We're a team that are going to be on the front foot. We're going to look to win games by the way we play rather than be reactive. We're going to be proactive. So I think with VANDERSON, I think he definitely ticks that box. I would argue if the right back that we bring in is never going to be on the technical level or can compete with Pedro Porro on the technical level, he will always remain a backup, because Postecoglou will always revert to someone like Pedro Porro, who is a lot more technically efficient, because Postecoglou focuses on the game going forward rather than defensively. So for me, I think that's definitely why we're in the market for someone like VANDERSON, who maybe isn't defensively solid. And I'd argue, small bit, Jack, with the right back, do they have to be defensively solid or 100% on it when they've got someone like Christian Romero, one of the best centre-backs in world football right now, covering that right-hand side? Probably not. Pedro Porro's competent defensively, but he could be a lot better. But he gets dug out a lot of times by someone like Christian Romero, by Papa Matasar when he plays there, or Kulizeski when he plays there. So the right back tends to get a lot of help. So I would go with more technically efficient. And that seems to be the way the modern game is going as well, Jack.
I'd agree with that. What I liked about Emerson was he had something different to Pedro Porro. He helped with set pieces when he had tough one-on-one assignments with a really good winger. Guys like Emerson did help, kind of relieve a bit of stress or worry as a fan going into games. But with what we're kind of looking for going forward, with what we're looking for with the system, we do probably want more technically efficient players, more technicians in the team, guys who know how to keep possession, make the right decisions under pressure, can also play a pass that very few others in the team can play. And we need as many guys in the team like that. And Pedro Porro is probably, as much as he's a right back, he might be our most technically gifted player, or at least one of in the entire team. And so we need someone like that, someone of a similar mold. And VANDERSON seems to be of that. Like, I can't claim to say he'll work out or that he's totally worth the 40 million. But when you do look at the attributes, when you look at the type of player that he is, it seems like Spurs are going for a more technically gifted player than they are going to go for someone that is totally different to Pedro Porro. They're going to go for somebody who's similar to him. And I don't blame them. And some of the things we're even saying about VANDERSON, lastly, same things we said about Pedro Porro when he first came in here. We were saying, listen, he's aggressive defensively, but we had question marks about the one-on-one ability. And that did show, like, even when he came to the Premier League, he's aggressive, but he gets beat a lot in the one-on-one moments. He's improved on that dramatically, but we always knew from the beginning, we called him the postman. We called him the danger man with those deliveries. And I think we're going to get something similar with VANDERSON if he were to come here. A guy who's very good, very talented going forward, who also has some work to be done defensively. We're not always going to be getting as well a complete player by any means. We're going for a guy that's very talented in one area, needs a little bit of work in the other. That was the same case with Pedro Porro.
No, 100%. Couldn't agree more. And the last thing I'd add is, Napoli, Barcelona, Man United have all been registered with interest over the course of the last maybe 6 months. So we're not the only team in the market for this guy. So it's one to maybe keep an eye on. The one thing I would say is that the fact that none of them have probably pulled the trigger just as yet probably gives us a head start to get him if we really, really want him. And then the last thing I will say, Jack, the fact that this is actually coming from Fabrizio Romano and not some random news agency or the likes of the Sun or the Star or something like that, it does add maybe a little bit more legitimacy to this rumor, maybe than some other links that we've seen, over the course of the last couple of weeks.
I agree.
Be interesting, but it does look like that VANDERSON is definitely on Tottenham's list. I would say, the last thing I would say is, and I'll repeat it, I don't think you'll see any movement on this until Daniel Levy structures the Emerson Royale deal and the Jets bench deal to be able to cover the price he's going to pay for VANDERSON.
Definitely. Well, Dave, shall we keep it moving here? We have some comments here from Shawnee Maddox saying, what is the last fullback to go for 40 million? Is this guy even close to that level? I'm not sure if he is close to that level, but nowadays, Sean, we're going for guys that are maybe more unheard of, more kind of secret talents that are yet to be fully discovered. That's been something Spurs have been good at in the past. This much of a fee, you'd wonder, is this just a guy that's just been under our nose this whole time that has been secretly very talented and very highly rated amongst the football experts and amongst, really top clubs, and maybe just the average fan like us don't really know too much about these guys, which could totally be the case. That's where I'm just a little confused is with you, right? Is like, what has this guy really done to be worth that 40 million price tag? Or maybe he isn't worth the 40 million. It's just he's worth 40 million to AS Monaco right now. At this moment in time, they don't see a reason to part ways with him unless it's that big of a fee. So it could be that too.
The thing is, when Premier League clubs come calling, because it's the richest league in the world and we're the league with all the money, teams are going to drive the price up for their players. And at the end of the day, there's 3 years left on the guy's contract. So they can, like you said, they're the ones dictating the price right now. So, look, it remains to be seen. But the fact that Fabrizio Romano is on it means that there's definitely something to this.
Yeah, for sure. Then also we had comments, Gen V Joker is saying, I wouldn't mind seeing Troy Parrott to play. Maybe we'll get Dave on it. I wanted to get Dave's thoughts on that on a YouTube short or something like that. We Talk Football saying, hi, Dev and Jack. VANDERSON too pricey. Feyenoord captain Getroida quality. Give Poro a run for his place. He's a guy that has a lot of experience coming in as an inverted fullback. And then Longy has picked up a Flat Cap membership. Thank you very much, Longy. And by the way, plenty of members content, I think, came out last week, if that was last week. So there's plenty to catch up on. If you haven't, I believe you've been a member before, but if you have missed any of the members content, plenty to catch up on. And then also this summer, Dave and I will be putting out plenty of stuff for you. We're going to be kind of rejigging the channel, taking a look at things. So we promise to deliver even more for you as a member. That also helps you get closer to even the community. It does support us a lot as well.
Big up, Longy. Really appreciate it. He's had one before anyway. I think he's maybe just renewing. But guys, if you do want to become a part of the community, like Jack said, we're going to have a lot of more focus on members content and stuff, especially to cater to you guys. So feel free, like Longy, to grab memberships if that's what you want to do. But look, let's keep it moving, Jacko. Let's get on to the next one.
And the next one is the departure of Emerson Royale. The deal is almost done. Tottenham are close to dealing with AC Milan for Emerson Royale. The player wants to play for AC Milan and has already reached an agreement in principle with the Italian club. An agreement worth 20 million euros could be reached within the week. This comes from Luca Bianchin, journalist for Gazzetta dello Sport out in Italy. Dave, do you see this being done relatively soon, or can you see Spurs continue to haggle, continue to price negotiate with AC Milan? How soon is this happening? What other questions do you have with Emerson leaving?
Look, this is one I think we're haggling with AC Milan over. There's definitely interest from AC Milan. I think it was already reported that maybe Emerson has already agreed to go there if they can structure the fee right with Tottenham Hotspur. I believe he wants to follow in his idols Cafu's footsteps. He's a long way off Cafu, I can tell you that. But the reported fee of 20 million, Levy's not going to sell for 20 million, Jack, because that would be taking a loss on a player that I actually don't think Tottenham actually need to accept the loss on this player to get him off the books. I think they, paid 26 million euros to Barcelona for his services, and I think that's exactly what Tottenham can recoup for him. I don't think his value is depreciated from moving to Tottenham Hotspur. So I think, we'll see a deal in around the 25, maybe 1 million add-on, or 24, maybe 2 million add-ons for AC Milan to secure this deal. But I'll be very shocked if we sell for the 20 million asking price. But Emerson does have 2 years left on his Tottenham contract, and this is the time where the club start considering, do they let them go or do they offer him a new contract? And clearly maybe Emerson hasn't done enough in Tottenham's eyes for him to be offered a new contract, and maybe that's why Tottenham are maybe open to offers and open to selling him. But what I will say is, let's not forget, I believe they turned down an offer from Saudi Arabia in January for Emerson. So it's hard to know what to make of this, Jack. But I'm going to pose a question to you. Could Emerson be the one pushing for this move? Because there's a few things that don't maybe make sense or stack up to me. Right back is not emergency or anywhere near on the priority list heading into this summer. Emerson is a lot more versatile than someone like Ben Davies is, and he has age on his side than someone like Ben Davies. And for me, I think competition for a Doji is a lot more necessary than for Pedro Porro, and that was proven in the season. When Emerson had to step in at right back or on the right side of centre back, he was competent. It was only towards the end of the season when we put him out at left back that he was maybe found out, but he's not a left-sided player. So that, for me, is the glaring obvious position. So do you think maybe this could be coming from Emerson's side, that he's driving the move?
I could see a few reasons for why Emerson would push for a move here. I'm going to answer them now. Emerson probably wants to play more. First of all, when you have seasons like what we had last season where there's no European football, you don't end up playing very much and you don't get the minutes that you feel like you deserve or that you think your career likely needs. So if he's a guy that values his career, doesn't really care as much about the paycheck as much as maybe other players might, he'd want to be playing more. And I don't blame him in that case. And then he also could be getting more money, technically. He could be playing more at AC Milan, but you never know. He might be getting even higher wages if you were to go to AC Milan. That's also another factor to consider. And a fresh start with a new fan base. It's sad to say, but I think I was probably one of the only fans that really continued to support Emerson throughout his struggles and through his high periods. I think the guy kind of got too bad of a rep from us. I don't think in any way was he ever a worse right back than Doherty, a worse right back than Aurier, or even other guys that we've had in the past, to be honest, since basically the days of Kyle Walker. I think sadly he's been, it's not saying much, but he's probably been second or third best right back since the days of pretty much Kyle Walker, I think, in this squad and this team. And I think he's been treated as if he was the worst one during that whole period. And you could think that the abuse that he took from Spurs fans for only being there so long and having songs being sung about him.
Yeah.
I wonder if that bridge has basically been burned between him and the fans. He's a professional. We saw that, right? He carried himself well. He didn't complain about the treatment from fans or anything like that. We haven't heard anything from him about that whatsoever. I'm not saying it's gotten to him, but if he had an opportunity to go to another massive club where maybe he could start anew and have a better relationship and a better appreciation from his fan base, I wouldn't necessarily pass that up if I were in his boat or in his shoes. And then you could see in his case, the way Spurs are trying to play, the way Spurs want to play, doesn't exactly suit, I think, his attributes or his skill set. You could see he would much rather be playing in a slightly more defensive system in a team where he can be asked to be more of a defensive specialist. And in the Serie A, the Italian league, you could see that being a league that really suits him quite well. So there are a lot of reasons for why I actually could see Emerson Royal technically pushing for this move. I agree with Spurs, though. Why would they want to take such a big loss on the player when technically he's had an okay season from last season? And then also the season before this last season, he had a pretty good season. So there's really no reason. His stock is technically increasing, at least in my opinion. And why would they then take such a big loss on the guy? I could see why they would be pushing for this 25 million to basically get most of what they want back.
No, 100%. I have no problem with them pushing for it either, to be brutally honest. But maybe just to sum it up on Emerson Royal, I just think the fact that he's 2 years left on his contract, I think means this one is more than likely going to happen somewhere along the line. I think we're just haggling on trying to get our 26 million and recoup what we invested in him. But I do agree with a lot of what you said there in terms of Emerson. I think he was a player that came in and around a similar era, likes of Gil. I think Romero's maybe one of the ones to buck the trend, that when we were signing players at the time, there was a lot of scrutiny around Tottenham, their transfer business, the ownership and stuff like that. And maybe he got swept up as a part of that, which I think was maybe a bit unfair on the guy. And he's never really recovered or been able to recover in the eyes of Spurs fans from there, whereas maybe someone like Romero has. But it does look like Tottenham and Emerson Royale's relationship is coming to an end, and I think we might see some movement on this over the next week. Big up DJ Samuel, member for 19 months. Sign me up. Tottenham, big up DJ. Hopefully you had an absolute cracking birthday, my man. Everyone give him a belated happy birthday in here. Hopefully you had a great day as well, my man. Bit slow on the news front right now, but you know, hopefully the deals start coming in quick and fast. Big up DJ Samuel. Also, big up Iceman closing in on that year milestone. Just 2 more months. Can you hang on? Can you hang on for 2 more months? Big
Can you
up,
tolerate
Iceman.
us for
Really
2 more months, Iceman? Can you tolerate us for 2 more? Big ups, sir.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your support over these years, man. And as well as I think you've been longer as a member for 10 months, or at least you've been in this community definitely a lot longer than that. And DJ Samuel, nearly 2 years for you, sir. Really appreciate you. Hope you had a wonderful birthday. Lots of good people I feel like had birthdays during that week of the, you know, kind of the 10th, you know, up until this point. So big up to you. Hopefully you had a good day. And maybe you enjoyed the England game as well and got to spend that with some friends and family too. Big up, DJ.
Yeah, good to see you too, Jay. And also Paddy Harnett and Tony Austin as well. Good to see you. We talk football, says Tony, 50 million as a 60 odd million grey from Leeds Robson plus Skip and cash. That would be a great window. Thoughts? We'll start this one and we'll speak on this one at the very end, my man. Big yourself up. We also got this from Martin Nightbridge. I also have your other comment that I've got started to the end, but we'll take this one now. It says, Lee will always haggle for every penny for his players and every penny off when buying. Do you know what? The first part, I actually have no problem for. You know, I actually want him to be tight. I want him to be mean when it comes to selling players. I want him to squeeze every penny he can get because it's our market. You know, there's interest in our players and it's our market. What bugs me is, you know, he also applies the same strategy when it comes to buying players when it's not our market and there's no flexibility, which is ultimately what usually comes back to haunt us. So hopefully maybe there's a bit of a leeway or a bit of change on that when it comes to the approach this summer. Maybe we can show a bit more of an aggressive approach in the transfer market. That would be really nice to see. But big up Martin Knightsbridge, and also good to see Paddy Harnett and Tony Austin in here as well. Great to see you guys. And then we also have Dr. Johnny D7, can't get too stuck. Emerson, he doesn't fit well in this season. Decent bloke, but needs slower league. No, 100%. We're fully agree. You know, happy to let him move on whatsoever. We're just discussing the fact that because right back wasn't emergency and left back was more of an emergency, is it more being driven by Emerson's side and that Tottenham are having to react to this rather than it actually maybe being planned for? That's maybe what we're getting at. But good to see you, Dr. Johnny. But look, Jack, let's keep it moving.
And we're going to talk about another departure, Højbjerg, and his agent has been speaking after with his departure potentially happening after the Euros. This is what he had to say. I'm going to run through it here, everyone. He said, this year I started working with Pierre, and it was a great satisfaction for me to be able to convince a top player for the project I had for him. Pierre has already experienced a lot in his career. He has had great seasons at Tottenham with top coaches like Mourinho and then Conte last year. Funny you didn't mention Ange. In the national team, he's a big leader as well. He then went on to say, a player like him will surely be part of a club with great ambition or project because he's not just a strong player, but with a character made to fight for important things every year. Pierre feels comfortable in the pressure to win, and I am working in this sense. He's telling me that every year he dreams of trophies in the end of his seasons and doesn't like to play for nothing. This is his mindset. This is the mission. I'm working on the many requests that we have already received. Yes, but he will analyze all the possibilities after the Euros during the holidays when we will spend some time together and then look forward to the next chapter. But Ellie is jealous of those holidays with Pierre. The national team is giving him back his lost serenity now. I'm 100% sure that whoever signs Højbjerg will do a bargain. There's a couple of things on this, Dave. One of them being that he, of course, didn't mention Ange. I find that kind of funny. And another thing is that the fact that he's saying it's going to happen after the Euros, Højbjerg's going to wait for offers. Is he basically banking on Højbjerg having a good Euros, his stock increasing, there being even more offers for his services? But then also, is it a bit of, you know, the fact that he thinks Højbjerg could be a bargain? I'm a little confused here. Do you think Højbjerg could be a bargain?
There's a number of sort of things on what you said there, Jack. I think when it comes to the bargain comment, I think what he means by that is Højbjerg's only got 1 year left on his Tottenham contract. So, you know, we're not going to get an absolute massive fee for him. And let's not forget, we only paid 15 million for him from Southampton years ago. So, we'd probably get around 20, 25 million for the guy. And I think in terms of maybe what he offers and might actually suit maybe someone like Atletico Madrid or some of the top teams in Italy with his style, might actually suit it with it being maybe a bit more slow around them and stuff like that, maybe being a bit more defensive. I think the player that they'll get for that 25 million is a bargain in a way. Højbjerg, regardless of his situation at Tottenham, even this season, has been the ultimate professional. Never once, that's something in modern day football that money can't buy. The guy that's first in to the training ground and the last to leave, a guy that regardless of the situation going on, when you call upon him, he's always ready and he's always ready to give it his all. They're things that, you can't take for granted in modern day football because unfortunately not all modern day players are like that now. That's a rarity in someone like Højbjerg, and I do think he's a lot better player than maybe what Spurs fans have given him credit for, over the course of the years. He's got a very good passing range, and I think he's a very good holding midfielder. Don't get me wrong, at times, especially in the Ange Postecoglou system, especially when he's come off the bench, sometimes when he gets the ball in a deeper position, he has that mistake in him. But if he moves to somewhere like Italy and stuff like that, he's not going to be asked to pick up the ball that deep, really, and start moving it. So maybe them sort of flaws won't come as regularly at another club. So interesting. I think that's why I think maybe the agent is saying they're getting a bargain to a degree. And what was the other question you asked me?
It was just more on the sense of Højbjerg. Is he a guy to you that just doesn't want to have these sort of distractions during the Euros? Like, do you think it's only going to happen after the end of the Euros for him? It's not like we're going to see a deal made during the Euros for him. You don't think he's a guy that would have that happen behind the scenes while he's playing?
To be honest, not someone like Højbjerg. He's fully focused on the job, and this is probably one of his last sort of Euros, maybe, for Denmark. And I think he will be fully focused on the job. And I don't think he wants any distractions. But I think there's going to be a lot of players like that. I think someone like Eze in the England squad is exactly like that. That you won't see a lot of movement for players at the Euros until either their country is knocked out. And I don't think you'll see any sort of movement until then because a lot of these players will not want that distraction. So I think that's why maybe they're sitting back and waiting. And obviously, the more they sit back, the more open it gives them, like you said, if he has a good Euros, for other clubs to put their hat in the ring, which means higher wages for Højbjerg, higher signing on fee for Højbjerg, higher agent fee for the agent, which is most important nowadays. One thing I will say is, just quickly, Jack. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, say what you're about to say, but I had a question that I asked Mia about Højbjerg that I also want to ask you, and then we can move on after that. But
one thing I would say is I've seen a lot of reports with him being linked to his agent having discussions in Turkey. I would not write off another reunion with Jose Mourinho at Galatasaray.
I wonder as well if Fenerbahce are definitely qualified for Europe because I know they qualified or they finished second in the league. But I wonder if they're able to get a Champions League by finishing second in the league. I'm not too sure with the Super League out in Turkey. The other question I had for you, Dave, was something that Mia and I were discussing when it comes to Højbjerg, and that's just that he already had this this move. I'm kind of trying to remember now, but geez, I already forgot the question just as I had it for a moment there. With Højbjerg, though, Dave, gosh, forgetting it now. I had a wonderful question I asked Mia the other day. Oh yes, this is what it was. Are we not going to get a great fee for him despite him being a good player? Because maybe the last summer we had a chance to sell him and it just, it didn't work out because Spurs were holding out for a ton of money. And we missed the chance of being able to sell him for around like 40 million or so. Do you think that the fees are only going to be around like 20 million, 25 for Højbjerg, 1 year left on the contract? Maybe a big missed opportunity to get a big fee for him.
No, I think you're not going to get much more than that. I think, the days of Real Madrid being rumoured for an 80 million transfer fee for someone like Pierre Højbjerg are well in a distant memory, Jack. I think you also have to take into account not a lot of clubs across Europe have massive amounts of money to be spending on players, and that's where Højbjerg's ultimately end up going to be going. He's not going to go to another Premier League club. I'll be very shocked. So for me, and plus the 1 year left on his contract, we only paid 15 million for the guy. I don't think we're going to recoup a massive fee that we can inject into the transfer budget, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks for answering that. And I think Mia was upset that actually Spurs were holding out for such big fees over the summer. I think her point was that if they were going to eventually sell him anyways, or if he wasn't really going to be always a part of Postecoglou's plans, they could have thought about just cashing in on whatever offer might have come, but it was difficult to know because, Atletico, they were kind of haggling us. I think they were only offering around 25 to 30. And Fulham were only offering like a loan to buy option. So it just wasn't easy for us. But you could say there was maybe an opportunity the last summer to sell him for a big fee. Then we could have been able to bring in another big midfielder. It just looks like we're not going to get as much as what I think he's worth. I think Højbjerg, if he had 2-3 years left on the contract, would probably be worth around 35 to 40 million, I think, to a lot of clubs. Maybe I'm overselling him, but I just think that, it's sad to see that we're not going to get as much money as I think we definitely could. But yeah, Dave, moving on into the next bit of news here. Archie Gray. And this is one that a lot of fans seem to be excited about. Strong interest in Archie Gray, according to Alistair Gold. Spurs have a strong interest in the player, as do most of the Premier League's top clubs. Unless Leeds really have to sell, you would like to think that the teenager will want to stay at Leeds for the time being. He'd make a perfect inverted right back, though. Two-part question, Dave. Do you think this is a realistic rumor for Spurs? But then also Alistair Gold kind of adding his own opinion on this, thinking that Archie Gray would be a good addition for us. He would be a great right back for us. What do you think?
First of all, before I get into my thoughts on Archie Gray, I have to say this is something that really maybe annoys me. I see whenever this guy's name is linked to Tottenham, I see so many fans, go and get him. He's the one. You got to bring him in. But yet when it comes to our own youngsters, we never advocate to give these youngsters the opportunity, which really annoys me to a certain degree. And I'm a bit hesitant on Spurs going out and splashing big fees on 18, 19-year-olds when we've got an academy that's won at under 17, under 18 level and under 21 level over the last 2 seasons. So I'm a bit hesitant to a degree. But when it comes to Archie Gray, Jack, and maybe I'll throw a question back at you first. He played 30 games at right back and 20 in the middle of the park last season for Leeds. So it's actually unsure what position Spurs are targeting Gray to come in and play. I think that's something that needs to be maybe clarified. What position do you think it will be that maybe Spurs are identifying him for?
That is hard. I've seen him play more often at right back than I had actually seen him play in midfield. What I liked about him at right back was that since he is a midfielder, he has no problem stepping into midfield or, kind of cutting inside, carrying the ball in there, trying to link play with the midfielders and taking up those positions that normally let's say the conventional fullback would be uncomfortable in, playing with your back to goal, trying to receive it on the half turn in those little pockets of space in the midfield. He's perfectly capable of doing that. It's just that when you watch him, he doesn't strike you as a natural fullback that's going to get down the byline, whip in crosses. And I'd say this as well. He has, a 2-footed ability to him. He can pass with his left. He can pass with his right. I don't remember, though, when he had opportunities to put in a really dangerous ball. If he did it that often enough, it's not like he's poor technically or anything. It's just that we're looking for someone who really can fizz them in and place them perfectly, like what we get with Pedro Porro. This might be a hot take. I don't know much about VANDERSON, but I wonder if VANDERSON actually would be an even better option than Archie Gray when it comes to that, actually creating chances, actually being able to be an effective attacker in those situations. I think Archie Gray, if he were to play an inverted fullback for us, would be good for keeping possession, not being as slow on the ball as Emerson was, be more just kind of good at keeping and rotating the possession and not losing it and making good decisions. But would he offer a real threat going forward? And kind of in the box or, whipping in crosses. I'm not totally sure. And when it comes to the midfield, not sure if he gets ahead of Pop Matasar, Bentancur, any of those guys. I don't think he does. And with your point as well, we already have so many talented academy kids coming through in the midfield anyways. Why would we want to clog that up with a guy like Archie Gray when we already have such good midfielders coming through? Do you think it's just because Spurs have such a homegrown deficit that we are just going to get a lot of rumors with various homegrown players like this throughout the summer, Dave? It's something we have to think about.
No, 100%. Look, Jack, it's something that me and you have highlighted for the last 2 years, especially with the age of some of the players that we did have down on the homegrown list. A lot of them are gone now, and that is something that needs to be replenished. But here's my point. We don't need to be replenishing it with a 19-year-old from Middlesbrough, an 18-year-old from Leeds, and We've got Jamie Donnelly. We've got Tyrese Hall. Callum Olasesi coming through behind that. You've got Mikey Moore who can end up playing in the cam role, sort of. So Archie Gray, is coming in to compete with them also with the likes of Madison, Papa Matasar. Is he going to get in ahead of them? And is it going to be a waste of money when we've got players that we can bring to ourselves in that position? I think, yes, I think this is where I do think it'd be right back, Jack, because maybe looking at the academy, right back and left back, we don't really see options coming through in them positions. So that's where I think maybe it'd be right back. But I think it's squandering money if we're looking to bring him in the central midfield area. But there's another couple of factors to this as well, Jack, over this Archie Gray deal. And I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as many people maybe think it will be. Look, Leeds failed in their bid for promotion, so they actually have to sell, I believe it's been reported, up to 100 million in terms of transfers, players out the door this summer.
Wow.
Because they're in such financial trouble. They were banking on getting promotion and it didn't happen. But Gray is not the only player at Leeds that has gathered a lot of interest. You've got young Gononto, Somerville, Bamford, Meslier, people like that. And I think Archie Gray will be one of the last ones maybe that might be out the exit door, because Archie Gray's father, grandfather, uncle all have a massive Leeds connection. I believe they're all in the academy or played for Leeds at one point. So it's not a straightforward deal. He's also got 3 years left on his contract. And with the talent and the interest in him, this isn't going to be a 20 million deal. You're talking 50, 60 million pounds here.
Well, that was my other question for you is this a cheaper option than Vanderson? But it sounds like you're saying it won't be. It won't be that much. It's not like Spurs are going for the cheap. Because I was thinking, are Spurs going for a cheap option, but then also knocking off another stone or another bird by going for like a homegrown option? So they don't have to replace Emerson with another non-homegrown player for a big fee. They could replace Emerson with a cheap homegrown option, kind of kill two birds with one stone. It sounds like you're not saying that's the case here. He would occupy a homegrown spot, which would be great for us, but he would command a huge fee because Leeds are desperate to get in lots of money, but they're probably less likely to sell him than any of the rest of their other talented, very sellable assets. You're saying they would be really reluctant to sell him.
No, just 1 second, lads. There's loads of questions coming in. Joshua, people like that. Do not worry. We're not ignoring them. I am starring them and we will address them, towards the end of the show. So do not worry about that. But Jack, when it comes to Archie Gray, this is the thing, right? Look how much we pay for Brennan Johnson. We way overpaid for him. And the reason why is because players that meet your homegrown registration for the Premier League and in terms of Europe come at a premium because English clubs are not producing enough of their own. So the good ones are coming at a very high price. One thing I might caveat my argument with is we do have a bit of a bargaining chip here in terms of Joe Rodon. He's had a very good season at the heart of defence for Leeds across the campaign. He was very, very consistent and very solid. But he's also garnered interest from the likes of League One in France. I think recently, there's a bit of other interest in there as well. But when Leeds were potentially looking at maybe negotiating with Tottenham towards the end of the season when it looked like promotion was on the cards, Tottenham hit Leeds with a 20 million valuation. So that might knock 20 million off the price tag if they do accept it. But you're still going to be looking at a 34 million fee on top of that to secure his services. So for me, I think this is one that I don't think is going to happen, Jack.
Interesting. And that's probably because, as Dave laid out, too expensive. And why would he really want to leave? Kind of agree. I guess you're kind of agreeing with some of what Alistair Gold said. Like, if you're in Archie Gray's position, like, why would you do this? You're a boyhood Leeds fan. You're being played on a regular basis. You'd be missing out on some of that needed development. And the fact that he is playing at such a high level at 18 years of age, why would you pass that up? Kind of just want to keep doing that, keep developing. No reason to rush things, right? I kind of agree with both you and Alistair Gold when it comes to
also,
that.
if you're Leeds, Jack, just last thing, if you're Leeds United, sell on the likes of Somerville, Meslier, or Bamford, people
Sell
like
them
that.
first.
You're going to keep Archie Gray as being the guy that you can rebuild the whole of Leeds with using this guy. A bit like what they've done with Calvin Phillips to a large degree. This is what they're going to do with someone like Archie Gray. He'll be the very last one that they'll want to sell. They're going to try and make up the money selling Somerville, Bamford, people like that.
No, spot on. That's a very good point, actually. And I would sooner sell all those guys. And with the new manager that they bring in, if they are going to bring a new manager instead of Daniel Farka, they might go for a guy that can build around players like Archie Gray. That's a very good point, actually, towards the end. Everybody as well, see that now we've eclipsed 100 people. If you can for us, smash the like button, get in those comments as well. Let us know anything. And also, if you want to stop the show at any point, feel free to use a super chat as well, and we can answer it straight away. But we do have some starred comments. I actually agreed with Dragon D's Nuts that as much as I would rather promote some of our own academy, and we don't get the chance to play them in a league like the Championship, we played a much higher level in the Premier League. But someone like Archie Gray has been a big beneficiary of being a talented kid who's being able to be thrown out there week in, week out, learn his craft, develop, make mistakes at not such a high level or at such a costly level. And he's benefited from it. That being said, though, give him credit to the fact that Leeds, right, they were planning on trying to promote and they were playing him so much. So he did play with some pressure, and he did play at a decently high level for the Championship. So that's a good point from Dragon D's Nuts, I think.
No, look, I think it's a very fair point he makes, and I get it. But he's only had one season under his belt. You know, there's no guarantee that you outlay that he's going to make that step up to the Premier League and do that week in, week out. It's a risk you're actually taking. But my point is, Leeds gave him the opportunity this season. He didn't go out on loan anywhere. Leeds gave him the opportunity in the first team, and he took it and ran, just like Manu did with Man United and so many other players that I could pull out in Premier League clubs. You know, I'd argue we're actually behind the curve on this. You're starting to see maybe a change in philosophy where clubs are actually giving academy graduates an opportunity because they don't want to be caught up in the price of the English market in the 50, 60, 70 million pound valuations because it's overvalued, because, you know, there's a short supply of academy players coming through. So a lot of clubs are actually booking that trend, and we're the last one to do it. But my point is, we can sit here and write our youngsters off all we want. But how do we know until we give them an opportunity? And how do Leeds know that Archie Gray was going to be good enough until they gave him an opportunity? How do Man United know Manu was going to be good enough until they gave him an opportunity? I would be very hesitant on splashing money until we give some of our youngsters an opportunity.
And just maybe another question. Would you prefer him as a right back instead of as a center midfielder? Could you see that being a better, if we were bringing him in as more of a right back instead of central midfielder?
No, for me, I think that's the position we'll be eyeing him for is right back. It doesn't make sense when you've got someone like Tyrese Hall, someone like Jamie Donnelly, Mikey Moore probably come in there, stocked around that position with youngsters. Where we're not stocked is fullback positions, and I think that's probably where they might look to bring him in. But saying that, like I said, I think we're going to be priced out of the market. I think this is a non-runner. He's a very talented player, don't get me wrong, but we're not going to pay the price that Leeds want.
And we'll get to Joshua's questions here, but I have checked in, and it looks like only 43 people have liked the stream. So if you can for us, it'd be a big help. And if you would like it, nearly 100 people in the house. Joshua is saying, Jack and Dave, do you think we can go back in for Ederson? Juventus getting David Luiz, or sorry, I think Douglas Luiz, right? Means that they won't need Ederson, and they're looking at Coop Miners. Ederson blew up this last season. I see him as more of a defensive kind of destroyer than I do as like a deep lying playmaker. And I'm wondering which one Ange Postecoglou wants, Joshua. Does he want a guy that's more defensively reliable, who can get around the place, cause, kind of stop any danger, can just be that defensive destroyer that we've been needing, kind of like Joao Palhinha? That's what everybody likes about Palhinha, is that he's so good defensively and stops dangerous attacks from happening. But do we need someone instead that's just good on the ball, dictates play, dictates the tempo? It's hard to get a guy that can do both. Someone like Rodri, at Man City. I feel like Ederson's just more, he's not as good on the ball. He's fine on the ball, but I don't see him as like a deep lying playmaker often. I see him as like a defensive destroyer midfielder, which plays in the same position, but is just technically a different attribute and is technically a different skill set.
Yeah, look, I could see us signing someone like Ederson. Of course, I think we need someone of, what he offers. But I do think if we were to bring him in and play him in that number 6 role, I think we'd have to change the midfield formation, rather play more like a Pochettino one, where you have someone, maybe a Basuma beside him with a Maddison as a cam, rather than the sort of one with the two pushing on with Papa Matsar and stuff like that. I think you would have to change that formation because you'd need someone better on the ball like a Basuma. And I think that it's very possible that Postecoglou could change formation to a little bit degree in terms of that midfield maybe going forward. But let's wait and see. But look, Juventus are being linked with everybody right now because they got a new manager.
And we also have Wayne Bonner saying, how old is Archie Gray and how long has he been in the Leeds first team? Is he better than any youngsters we have, especially given the potential asking price? He's 18 years of age, Wayne Bonner, and I think this last season is his first full blooded season playing for Leeds in the men's first team.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on, Jack.
And then
Joshua, good to see you though, sir. How are you keeping?
then Joshua says, Dave, you're right, because some of our fans say buy this brilliant prospect, but are also the same ones that say complain we haven't brought in the youth. Wayne Bonner says, what's the crack with that Hall kid? I've heard nothing bad about him, only good. Is he worth a punt with bringing him up for preseason and seeing what level he's at? Dave, I felt really guilty making some of these videos. Wayne Bonner, I hope, was able to catch some of them, but I made some videos about my predictions for some of the academy players, where they might end up, where they could go, how they'll be used next season. I touted that, I tipped that I think Tyrese Hall as well as Mikey Moore will be definitely used a lot this next season because they're practically too good to be playing only in the under 21s. They're around that age where you can give them these opportunities at playing at a higher level. They can learn from, senior pros. They can play at a faster pace, play at with also more technically gifted players and better players around them that play at more their speed, their intelligence. And then you can also, when the bigger games come up in the Premier League season, then you can shift them back to the under 21s. Just feels like we can go for this kind of dip in, dip out approach for some guys like Tyrese Hall next season. No reason to loan him out, nothing like that, but we should be able to give him some minutes.
No, 100%. Look, he's on the young side of the under 21s. A lot of the players are Dorrington, Donnelly. I think Donnelly's the oldest at 19. You got Dorrington at in around the same age. Hall's only 18 years of age, or 18 years of age. He's had a remarkable rise from the under 17s to the under 18s from the under 18s into the under 21s, and on the verge of breaking into the senior team. Not many people know this. Before we tied him down to a 5-year contract, Man City was sniffing around him. That shows the level that this guy is at, and for me, I think he's been absolutely sensational. Not only is he a midfield destroyer, but he can play as well. He's sort of, when I look at Jude Bellingham does all aspects of midfield well. He's not only a guy that can get on the end of things, making late runs into the box. He can create. He's got a good passing range, but he can get stuck in and tackle. He can handle himself. He can go and head a ball. Tyrese Hall has all of that as well. And for me, I think we got to give the kid an opportunity. Don't clog up the pathway for him. He's absolutely sensational.
Shall we move on to the next bit of news here, Dave?
Just quickly, we're missing two. These were older ones. We've got this from We Talk Football. Tony, 50 million. Eze, 60 million. Gray from Leeds. Robson plus Skip and Cash. That would be a great window. Thoughts? Look, I would love someone like Ivan Toney at this club. I think he sort of offers you a lot of what Harry Kane does to a degree in all aspects of forward play. I think, when we look at a forward, many people straight away look at it in terms of goals and assists, which of course you should. But many people forget that you also have to have a guy that can play with his back to goal, hold up the ball, bring others into play, get you up the field and stuff like that. So I would like someone like Toney because I think he offers you a lot of, ticks a lot of boxes in that regard. Eze, of course, I'd love. Gray, I think he's a fantastic player, but like I said, I'm maybe a bit hesitant on spending money on a big money that it's going to require on an 18-year-old. I'd rather us go for someone like a VANDERSON, to be brutally honest. That's where I'm at with that. We Talk Football, big yourself up. Really appreciate the comment. And we also have this from Martin Nicebridge watching Radu today, Jack. He says, what do you think of playing a back three and keep power on Doji higher up the pitch to be more attacking and safer at the back?
Martin, I love it because it's, the moment that we left Antonio Conte, all of a sudden everybody's realizing the potential of a Spurs back three to back five. If only we had just let him maybe stay a bit longer, and then we could have been able to see the fruition of, these guys. But then again, maybe we wouldn't have the players that we do now, right? Antonio didn't exactly trust some of the younger players nearly as much. With Radu Dragusin, it's a good problem to have. He's playing really well. He's playing exceptionally. He's getting a lot of attention. It means it's going to put pressure on Romero. It puts pressure on Van de Ven. Also gives Postecoglou something to think about, even if Ange isn't exactly going to switch to a back three or anything like that, because it doesn't really suit his style or his system or his shape that he prefers. Having a player that's forcing him to think about him, forcing him to, think, well, this guy's been playing really well, and I don't want him to, feel like, it's for nothing or that he's not going to get anything out of this. So I think it's a good problem to have at Dragusin. I don't see, though, Ange ever switching to a back three of any kind. Maybe one day we see a version where in certain games he might leave like a player further forward and then have another guy kind of be a bit more cautious in getting forward. We see that with England with Kyle Walker, right, being often used to kind of, be a bit more defensive than the other fullback is that, does go a bit further forward. So I don't know. I could see Ange doing something like that, but a back three, I'm not sure if it's ever going to happen under him. It just won't.
There you are, Martin Knightsbridge. For me, I agree with Jack. I don't think we will see a back three. Anyway, I don't want to see many Spurs fans clamour for a back three or a back five because they didn't want to under content. I'm not even that at you, Martin. I'm just putting it out there in the atmosphere in general. Don't be that person that wanted Conte sat because of all the reasons you gave and then want basically his formation. Do not be that person. I also want to recognize SOF in the comments as well. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well as well. He says the reason Gray is so expensive is because he is an age where he would qualify as not only homegrown but also club homegrown. He would spend 3 years before his 21st birthday at the next club if he sold. Absolutely spot on.
Very good
And then
detail.
also says most of the big six clubs loan out or sell their young talent to help with financial fair play. I wonder if our youth did so well because we didn't sell on or loan the better players. I disagree with that to a degree. You look at the likes of Oscar Bob, Luis, Phil Foden, for instance, who came through the City Academy and stuff like that. They do give their best ones an opportunity. Manu at Man United. Look at Liverpool, for instance, Kwanzaa, made the England squad there just before he got cold and stuff like that. So I disagree with that slightly, but also says if Chelsea, for example, had all those Brazilian wonder kids playing under 21 games, I think they fare better in the under 21 league to a degree. But you forget we had Devine Phillips sent out on loan, Josh Keeley sent out on loan, Dane Scarlett, Troy Parrott, people like that sent out on loan. These guys were brought up from the under 18s last season. Some of them could have still played under 18s this season. They're on the young side of the under 21s, and they absolutely dominated it. And this is one thing I'm trying to drive home that I don't think people understand. Not only did they have success at under 18 level, they brought it into the under 21s this season. They went from a team that couldn't compete in that division to a team that absolutely blitzed it, dominated. No one could get on. No one could compete with them, bar Fulham in the cup final, which injuries didn't help. But that's the point I'm trying to hammer home when it comes to that. I think we've got a lot more special players there than what maybe people first recognize. But big up, Soph. Good to see you in the building. And then we have this from John Stokes. Good to see you, John Stokes.
John.
Hopefully you're keeping well. He was all over the Hoiberg news in the chat earlier on. A regular gamer. Good to see you in there as well. He says, big up, Dave and Jack. We should play a 3-4-3 back line of Van de Ven, Dragic, and Romero. Play youngsters more often. I completely agree with the second part. I'm a big advocate of, but I disagree to a large degree about the 3-4-3. I don't see many systems where it's actually really, really successful. For me, 4 at the back, it's always been the way to go, and I still think it is the way to go. I look at Serbia, played 5 at the back the other night against England. We tried it under Conte to a large degree, didn't work. And I just don't believe you can play a really attacking formation playing that way, to be brutally honest. And then I think you sacrifice maybe in forward areas a little bit as well, which is a big problem. We don't have Kane and Son to be able to carry us to the goal like we did in years gone by. We've got Johnson and Werner to do it now. So it's a big problem. So I'm very against going on that formation for that purpose. You have to have an elite forward line to be able to play this system effectively. And we are nowhere near that level in terms of the forward line. If we didn't have Harry Kane on that second Antonio Conte season, wow, we would have been even worse, or under even the first season under Antonio Conte. Him and Son absolutely carried us to Champions League, and they had Kulusevski to a degree. But Kane's gone, Kulusevski's off form, Son getting older, tried his best, but we're having to shoehorn him in every position across the front line to tailor to the opposition because he's the best player we have. We just do not have the forward line to be able to carry this formation effectively. Let me know what you think on that, John. Jack, what would you say to him?
Listen, John, I think we have a lot of great personnel actually to do a 3-4-3.
Okay.
It's too late. I just don't think it's well past it. With Van de Ven, you have the pace. He can play in the left side. I think Dragic or Romero can play through the middle, probably maybe more so Romero because he's such a great passing range and can pick such great passes. Then we have unbelievable wingbacks. It's just that we didn't have the patience, I think, under Antonio Conte or other managers to see this out. That being said, though, I don't know if Spurs would have been able to get Van de Ven, or we would have been able to get guys like Udogie, that these sort of guys, and integrate them into the team if we had kept someone around like Antonio Conte. It's just hard for me. I think Spurs could easily play a version of a 3-4-3. We have midfielders like Bentancur and Basuma who could occupy the middle, work very hard. It's just, I think we're past that stage now. We have to look at the personnel that we brought in, and we have to use them in the way that Ange wants them to. I think in a different world, and weren't here, yes, we could think of, a 3-4-3. The Madison purchase, though, wouldn't make a lot of sense, right? Because then Madison kind of gets caught out of position. You're not really sure where to shoehorn him into the team. I agree, John. I think, yes, we could do it, but I think those days are sadly gone. I think it's too late now at this point. And you and I are going to have to, do a bit of a what if and, kind of cope, with maybe the days of the 3-4-3 being past us.
Soft does make a good point, and Leverkusen do play an attacking version. I think they're probably the exception to the rule. Fair play to you on that one. But John, really appreciate the support, my man. Give us feedback in the comments whether you agree, disagree, or not. Guys, if you want to be like John, want to stand out, want to make yourself known, your presence known, why not super chat with your thoughts, with your suggestions? It's a great way to help your boys out. Look, we obviously understand not everyone's in a position to do it. Summer holidays, everything else. We are being fair with it. We are starring comments and taking questions as we go along. But if you want to be extra generous, do what John's done. Big up Johnny boy.
Absolute legend, Johnny. And Dragusin, right? He's been playing so well. Like it does. I don't blame people for thinking about this. How can we get him into the team? He's playing so well. At the end of the day, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have a guy that's playing as well as he is.
No, 100%. We've got three phenomenal centre backs there to a large degree. But I think Paul Connors hit the nail on the head here. Everyone's forgetting that we have 50 plus games next season. Dragon will get his fair share of games. With Romero, maybe suspensions, injuries, same with Van de Ven and stuff like that. So there is going to be game time available to him. I think maybe we're just knee-jerking to get them all in at once. But, I think Paul Connor makes a fair point to that. Big up Paul Connor. Let's keep it moving, Jacko.
This one could be nice and quick. EPL clubs are interested in Joe Rodon. Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton are among the Premier League clubs that have shown interest in signing Spurs defender Joe Rodon this summer. That's according to, I think that's actually maybe more according to Alistair Gold. I might have gotten this one wrong. Sorry, slight typo on the actual source and the actual credit. But Dave, the only question I have on this one is, could we actually get back the original transfer fee? I think that was around like 14 million pounds or something that we had originally paid for Joe Rodon. Could we get that all back without him ever really playing for Spurs? That's quite a funny thing.
I think we will. Look, I think it's hard because I believe he's only got 1 year left on his contract as well. But there's a lot of interest, and I think Spurs may be able to actually leverage that to their advantage. They've sort of held it over Leeds for about 3-4 months now. This is our asking price, meet or not. And there is a lot of other interest, so let's wait and see what happens in that regard. But Rodon will be one that you'll be shipped on this summer, of course. And he could be one of the early ones gone because, of course, he's not participating at the Euros.
I just want to credit him for the fact that he's able to pay back basically the original transfer fee without ever really playing for Spurs compared to guys like Lo Celso, compared to guys like Tanguy and Ndombele, so many others. He actually will be paying back the transfer fee. So fair play to him for never even really being good enough to play in a Spurs shirt. I think he just was never the right signing for us. Rick and Brighton. What were you about to say?
Well, Jose Mourinho did say, he recommended Kim Min-jae, and we could have paid $5 million for him at the time. So, but we thought as a club we knew better. How wrong did we get that one? And look where Kim Min-jae is now. But Jack, on to Rick and Brighton. So he's changed now.
He's all over the place, Rick and Brighton. Rick all over the world. Big up, lads. Keen on the Eze links. Rest will be fine. Rick, I think Eze, the more it's becoming a possibility, the more I'm being, tempted by it. He's been one of my favorite players outside of Spurs for a long time now, for probably the past few years since his move to Palace. He's just such a pleasing player on the eye. I think he offers something actually different to guys like Madison or any other player in the team. He has certain skills and certain attributes that we really actually need. We need a guy who can take it past 1, 2, 3 players, take a lot of pressure and attention away from guys like Madison and Son. I think he solves and helps us in a lot of different ways and is waiting for that big step up. I think he is waiting for that move to a club where he can play around other brilliant talents and other brilliant players. He's been having to carry that Crystal Palace team now, I think, for almost not too long or anything like that, but he has been carrying that team, and I think he needs a different challenge. And when it comes to Eze, I'm just so keen on him. I'm kind of like you. Yeah, I would have opinions about the other players we need to bring in, but he probably is my eyes light up the moment that I see his name with us being linked to him.
I'd have to get a welfare check on Jack because he's a guy that Jack's actually been mentioning to me for quite some time. Every weekend after Premier League, did you see Eze? Jack's a big fan of him, so we'd have to get a welfare check on Jack if that happened. Just one thing I want to clear up. I know there's some maybe people going on, but look at his injury record and you know, it's something I've said before. I also think I heard you say it, Jack, there over the last week and some of the content that you've done, that there is a case that Palace roll him out half fit, you know, because he's one of the most
Mm,
creative players and sort of a
that's a
guy
fair
that can
point.
put points on the board for them. You know, whereas at Tottenham, we would be able to, hopefully, the
That's
idea
a good
is
point.
to not rush him back as quick. So hopefully, but for me, I think it'd be an absolute cracking sign. Big up Rick and Brighton. Hopefully, you have a great time. I hear Brighton is an absolute fantastic place. I was actually down there with Ben and Sim on an away day there a couple of years back. You know, didn't venture into Brighton, but was at the stadium, and that seemed like a nice place. So big up Rick. Hopefully, you're keeping well.
And let's keep things moving. This is an exciting rumor that we were able to see. I'm not sure how much we can really take it seriously, but might as well take a look at it. It comes from Orazio Accomado, who is an Italian journalist for DAZN, and he said that Tottenham are interested in Calafiori. Spurs have asked Bologna and the defender's entourage for information on the player, which Juventus has been talking about for some time. Juve are still leading the race for the player, but watch out for a possible rich offer from Spurs. Dave, this guy, very talented. He's actually in what a lot of fans have been wanting, which is someone who can play left-sided center back, but then also can play the left back position.
Mm.
We found out recently that Van de Ven is sort of similar, but I do think we need definitively this summer someone who can play as a backup to Doji realistically. This guy Calafiori, he is a version of a two birds with one stone, where you could be able to find a very good backup. I keep using that word. I apologize, Paul Connor, but very good competition for someone like Van de Ven, but then also is such a technically gifted player. He can also fill in for Doji when need be. So he's a very good player. Is this what you're looking for? Would you rather us get a left-sided center back and a left back separately, or do you like this kind of guy that could do two positions?
Ideally, I would like both, Jack, but you know, knowing Tottenham and Ange likes versatility. I don't think Ange likes versatility. It's strange that every manager likes versatility that comes to the door. Spurs like versatility because it means they can spend less. So I think, you know, it sort of ticks off a box ticking exercise for them. And I think, you know, you get this guy in, it probably means you can save the left back until next summer at your peril, I would warn, but maybe invest that little bit more in an Eze or something like that, rather than signing two players. So I think if we were to get this guy in, we won't be signing a left back. Potentially Ben Davies probably be kept around again another season anyway. One thing I will say is there has been links to Mark Guay today as well that have
Mm,
surfaced just over the course of this evening, who's also, of course, been playing left-sided centre-back at Crystal Palace and for England, and he was absolutely superb the other night,
he
actually, for
was.
England. And I loved his post-match press conference either. Didn't want to be the star, want to talk about the team in
True.
general. That's
Speaks
hard-on
well.
material for Ange Postecoglou. Ange Postecoglou hears that, he'll get an absolute rage on. And Tottenham have a long, outstanding interest in Guay, so I do think it's between the two. Where I'm a little bit concerned is, Jack, you highlighted that, you know, his manager at Bologna is now at Juventus. Is it a case that Bologna are using Tottenham
Hmm.
to maybe, you know, get more of a fee out of Juventus for the
Yeah.
guy and maybe fake interest from Tottenham Hotspur? Because clubs do that to help each other
Yeah.
out, by the way. It's a known tactic and stuff like that. So that's where I'm a bit hesitant with this. Um, where I'm even more hesitant is we've heard from Daniel Levy himself, Spurs will not enter bidding wars.
Yeah.
So that's what concerns me. However, I will say I absolutely love what I see of this
Yeah.
guy. He's all action. He absolutely loves defending, which is something you heard me speak about a lot when we had the likes of Sanchez and Dyer, that they do not love defending. This guy loves it. You know, he wants to get his body in the way. He wants to be disruptive. He wants to
Yeah.
protect that goalpost at all opportunity. And he can play. And I'd argue he's similar to Van de Ven. Long strides on the ball, can comfortable,
Yeah.
can play. You know, so for me, I think he'd be an absolute fantastic sign. If we get him in and that sort of that right back position, well, along with Fiskovic, Phillips, Darrington, people like
Yeah.
that coming through, our backline sorted for a decade.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really awesome rumor. I'm not sure how much I believe in it though, and it's because of what you said there. I think Thiago Motta, the former Bologna manager, he's made his move to Juventus.
Mm.
I would not be surprised if he put Calafiori as one of his main targets. Juventus are in the desperate need of a revolution, kind of changing of the guard. They need a new project, and you'd think that, you know, the club like that, they will give their manager some of his main targets. They would, if he identifies Calafiori as one of his number ones, they will get it done and they'll bring him over. Also, with what King Hoddle said, right? Does he really want to play competition, plenty of players are motivated enough to do it, right? But if he's given basically a starting position in the Juventus backline with the manager that he already had such a great season with, that he knows so well, hard to pass that up, really. I just don't see the reason why he would. Maybe part of it could be because Paratici. That's the only thing that's giving me hope in this is because Paratici, he works in mysterious ways. He's eventually coming back from his ban. We already know that he technically is working basically for the club anyways, still, and helping us out. So I wonder if this rumor, if there is anything to it, I don't believe in the validity of it, Dave. But if there is something to it, I actually think it's probably because of Paratici angle that maybe he is capable of hijacking a deal. Paratici, he absolutely is.
Look, personally, I think it's one of these easy rumors to make. Spurs have rebuilt the club out of Serie A. Bentancur, Romero, Adoji, Vicario, players like that, Kulusevski. We've rebuilt this Tottenham out of Serie A. It's a market that we're actively in and we do very well with. And he's a very good player. And Tottenham needs someone to play on the left-hand side. So I think it's very easy rumor for DAZN Italy to make up, to be brutally honest.
If it were to happen, the only reason I see it happening is because we have a certain Fabio Paratici, the Don, who could get it done. It's a brilliant rumor. It's one I'm super excited by, but the reason we left it towards the tail end of the show is because I don't think Dave and I actually believe in it really all that much. Might as well put it out there for you just to get you guys excited. And the other one to maybe get you guys excited about, that's also a great player, but not sure if Dave and I really believe in the reports of this too much yet. It's coming from Mundo Deportivo and also through a translator of Sports Witness, who have said that Spurs' interest in Kubo, where there were reports that we had sent a 50 million euro transfer bid, that's actually kind of been, I guess, reported by Mundo Deportivo, a Spanish outlet, is way off the mark. It has been said, though, that Liverpool, Man United, and other top Premier League clubs are monitoring him and his situation. And Spurs, according to them, do have at least the most concrete interest that they can tell. But there wasn't any other mentions of like financial details or any other bids that could be coming around a certain fee. So the real vagueness in the story and the real vagueness behind all of it in general, the fact that I saw it kind of in I would say the back ends of kind of the transfer kind of rumors around Spurs. It wasn't really in kind of the top sources or where we usually find them. I'm not sure how much I can really buy into this. I wouldn't be surprised that Spurs are looking at this guy, but it feels very early stages or just not really happening at all. Just kind of a made up rumor.
I'm a bit torn up with this one, Jack, because there is part of me that believes Tottenham are in the market for the next big player or rising star in Asian football, to replace some, because he is coming to tail end. And the reason why is because the loyal following and the revenue that they bring with them. So I do believe Spurs are in that market for someone like Kubo, who, he's a very tidy player. I have my doubts whether he can make the step to the Premier League with his physique and stuff like that. And also, it is a 60 million release clause. Every player in Spain that signs for a Spanish club has to have a release clause. It's part of something that has to be inserted into their contract. You look at a lot of Barcelona, for years they were putting 250, 260 million release clause in the contract. That's why they were able to keep a lot of their big stars there for so long, because they put valuations in the contract that clubs were never going to meet. But he has 60 million in that contract, and it's a very easy one if Spurs wanted to do it. They don't need to be doing this huffing and puffing, going in 10 million less. If they really wanted them, they'd have put the 60 million in bid by now.
Yeah, I agree. He's a player that is similar to, he's not similar in build or anything like that to Kulusevski, but he's similar in that he likes to cut inside. I think of him as a quite one-footed player, which isn't a total problem, but I do think of him as a very left-footed player that likes to cut inside. He can take it down the byline, though, and past his man, because he has really good agility. He's got good, quick kind of turn of pace, and is a tricky winger. I think he has even a similar kind of low center of gravity even to someone like Marcus Edwards, where he's not, the guy that's going to be, he's actually probably a bit trickier than Marcus Edwards in that he has more flair, I think, to his game. He has some, some definite flicks and tricks for sure. But it's just that he's different to what we have at right wing in that he has a good first touch, can retain possession, and is one of those kind of just, tricky, intelligent wingers that will look to try to pick out passes and be creative. It's just that maybe what we're looking for is someone who's a bit more consistent at just taking it down the byline and trying to whip in good crosses for for the striker. He would help us out, though, when it comes to retaining possession and not making silly decisions in possession, which was a problem for Werner, was a problem for Johnson, and sadly was, I think personally, hot take here, I think that was a problem for Kulusevski towards the tail end of the season. We know he is supposed to be good at hold-up play and possession, but towards the tail end, he was giving it away a lot, just like the rest of the wingers. And Kubo would help us out in that regard. He's not a guy to be lazy or, kind of useless, or what am I trying to say? Wasteful with the ball.
Yeah, look, I think he's a very good player. I just worry about whether he'd make the step up with the physique wise. Gil could do what he was doing in the Spanish league to a large degree when he was on loan at the relegation club, came to the Premier League and maybe didn't have the strength and the physique maybe to deal with the Premier League. But look, Kubo's an interesting one, and it's definitely that I think we'll keep monitoring over the next week. What I would say is if we sign another winger, we ain't sign a striker, and I'm going to make a prediction now. I think Kulusevski playing up front last game of the season is with a view of Tottenham doing that long term with the guy. And that's something I suggested all of half of last season. And if we sign a right-sided winger, that's where Kulusevski's going to be next season.
I love that.
But just quickly, I want to welcome in DB and Sam DaCosta. We're actually just finishing up now, just rounding up now, guys. So I do apologize. So I do apologize about that, guys. We got this from Colin Turner. But as always, it is good to see you, DB and Sam.
Yeah,
great to see you guys. We got this from Colin Turner. What did you gentlemen think about the story regarding Tony not wanted by Arsenal because he would upset the squad? There has been a lot made, and this is why I think there's been no actual deal struck for Tony right now, is because there is a lot of people that are worried about maybe Tony's attitude right now. And it is precarious because he is a guy that has a bit of venom towards football. I would as well if I got banned for, as long as he did. He was sort of used as an example. The ban was maybe a bit extreme for, a couple of bets and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of people worried about his mindset and stuff. What I would say is he could dispel a lot of that just by a quick goal for England or two, a couple of good cameos. Yeah, look, Arteta, I still question that guy, coming in upsetting the Arsenal squad. He can't upset it any more than, bringing in David Raya to replace Ramsdale, or bringing Liverpool speakers into the training ground and playing Liverpool songs while they're training and shit like that. So, look, couldn't care less what this idiot does, to be honest with Arsenal. For us, like I've said, I would like Ivan Toney.
And the only way Spurs, I think, could lead the race in this is that they see an opportunity to potentially financially take advantage of Brentford's situation with him. Brentford do have to sell him. They need to sell him. And unless there's a huge bidding war between clubs, let's say there's only so many clubs actually interested in bringing in Ivan Toney, Spurs would be the club to take advantage of that. If what had happened didn't happen, he'd be going for around 60, 70, 80 million pounds, but that's probably not going to happen. He's only going to probably go for around 40, maybe 50 million pounds, probably even less. You don't know. And Spurs would be the club to take advantage of that situation when it's given to them more than others.
Well, big up, guys. Really appreciate it. We've took a lot of your questions throughout the show. Really appreciate every single one of you tuning in this evening. This is something we're going to look to do most evenings where we can, as long as there's stuff to talk about. We're not going to fabricate anything or anything like that. So hopefully you guys can tune in with us regularly, 6 o'clock most evenings for this show. Get your questions in for us and stuff like that. Just a couple of quick things. I am going live 8:45 a.m. in the morning. The fixtures for the new season is out tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. So I'd love if a lot of you guys could join me. Look, you don't have to share my excitement. You can be a bit more pessimistic. Just come and join me and do not leave me on my own. I'd appreciate that. It's definitely going to ramp up my delusion and my excitement heading into the season. So join me for that. But most importantly, where have you guys been for our watch-alongs for the Euros? We've been doing so many of them over on that platform, Tifo. We need more of you guys over. You guys are the reason why we get these opportunities. Now we need you to get over there and support us for a lot of these games coming up. We've done the German game. We've done Spain. We've done England. We've done all the big teams, and we've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm also being educated in the process. So, if you guys want to be a part of that, a bit of fun, have a good chat with each other and stuff, it's a lot more laid back. Get your account signed up. It's completely free to do. Takes 2 seconds. And come and join us for all the fun for the Euros. That's where we are doing our Euros. If you think we've gone missing for the Euros, you're sadly mistaken. You just haven't found us.
It's a great plug, Dave. Everyone, so many more games coming up as well. Maybe you might as well just let you know about 8 or so games that coming up. I think we're going to be doing over the platform in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Copa America. Dave and I are going to sit down. We're going to do Argentina, Canada, Panama, USA, Uruguay. Those 2 games, Panama, USA, Argentina, Canada. That's this coming Thursday. We're going to be doing those games starting Wednesday, Germany, Hungary, Thursday, Denmark, England, Spain, Italy, Thursday. And then after the weekend, we're going to do in Croatia, Italy, England's final games of the group, Denmark's final games of the group. We're going to be definitely there for the final day, see all the drama for that. So please, everybody, join us over there. Been having lots of fun doing trivia, watching really good games. And then when there hasn't been as good of games, I think we have a good laugh. We have good things to chat about. You can also come on and join the shows. Actually, really easy to join the shows compared to how it is on StreamYard or how it is on OBS with these shows. You guys can actually come on, have a chat with us if you've been wanting to do that as well, completely free. So if you want to take advantage of that, please do. I think people, like Dave said, have been really missing out on some nice vibes over the summer. It's a great time to be a football fan, and I think we should spend it all together, watching the games together.
Just one big joyous love fest, football love fest. So get over there and join us for it. You are completely missing out. But like I said, we will be back with a lot more Tottenham content now over the next, while and stuff like that. So make sure you stay tuned. And we will be working hard as well behind the scenes, making sure we get unbelievable members content for you guys towards, the middle of the summer, the back end of the summer, and heading into next season. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has grab the memberships. Longy, DJ, Samuel, Iceman. Really appreciate it, guys. And all you other guys in the chat with that lovely star, circle, whatever it may be, beside your name. So big up to all you guys. And also John Stokes for the support as well. Really do appreciate that, my man. The aim, not going to lie, we want to develop a proper Spurs cult here. So if you want to, the aim is to get all of you guys to grab memberships, even if it's, you've got choices. You don't even have to grab the most expensive one. Grab the middle of the road one or the very cheap one. It's just a great way to support your boys for all the effort and the content that we continuously try to make for you guys and put out there for our enjoyment, but also a bit of your entertainment. So why not grab one of them? But guys, that's it from us. We are off the air. We will see you back here tomorrow. Jack, anything you want to say before we leave?
No, everybody. Thanks for supporting us throughout the times. Thanks. Good to have Dave back with us. Plenty of good content coming up, like I said, with Copa America watch alongs, Euros watch alongs, and just plenty of stuff with Spurs. We hope to see some news come out so that we can actually provide you guys some more breaking stuff, but we're going to do our best to see what we can provide, and really appreciate all the support that you guys continue to give us. And see you tomorrow.
8:45 a.m. Be there or be square, but I do need your help. Come and join me. Guys, come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust.
In the big Ange we trust.
We never stop.
See you, everybody.
See y'all.